Good morning. I'm Bruce Ferguson. I'm teaching a beginning glass blowing class this week here in the studio of the Corning Museum of Glass. Today's demonstration is going to be a little bit different than what you've seen throughout most of the series for a couple of reasons. Number one is the class. It's beginning glass blowing, and beginning glass blowing, this is a fairly complicated craft. And it'd be just as if you were learning a dance routine and you had to take like 256 steps. You don't just do all of them one time through and get it. You got to break it down and do a little bit at a time. So we have drills for the beginning class to do. They're doing a really great job. They practice a little bit of this and a little bit of that, learn how to control the glass and manipulate the material. It's really great for teaching them. However, it would really be kind of boring to watch. And I don't want to be the first instructor that has 0 people in the audience. So what we're going to do is shift it up a little bit today. I'm actually going to demonstrate something that the class is not quite ready to do. But what I'm going to try to do is teach them how the things that they're learning now, the concepts that they're working on, will be evident later on if they continue with it. So most of my focus is going to be on them. So I'm probably going to talk a little bit more than a lot of the demos that you see. The other reason things are going to be different is me, because normally you see established master glass blowers, people that are professional glass artists, have spent their careers developing their skills and getting their artistic voice out there. I'm not really a professional anything anymore. I'm a retired air traffic controller as a school band director. But I'm not here because I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night or anything. I've been teaching beginning and intermediate classes to glass blowers for 15 years at the Art of Fire studio down in Maryland, okay? So that's a little bit of background there. And the thing that I'm trying to demonstrate is also kind of what I'm doing to you. I'm pushing myself beyond my comfort level here, okay? So it happens to everybody. But the only way you're going to grow is to really push it. So now I'll give you a little bit of background on why we're going to do what we're going to do, a little what you see, and we'll get to it. So a few years ago, my friend and teacher, Bill Gudenrath, showed me how to make these little bottles. They're called banded bottles, and they're made with cane, okay? And the thing that I really like about these is that the loops go all the way down and back up, okay? They're draped along the longitudinal axis of the piece, and they go all the way. I just think it's cool, all right? So I went home and I made a bunch of them. And I have a really good friend and co-worker, Josh Rees, and we pal around a lot, and he's also a bit of a wise guy. And he said to me, you're not going to be able to do that in an open form, something bigger. And it was like, why not? Well, because of the technique used to do it. So then we set about trying to figure out how we could do it with something that was more a traditional cane look and open, okay, instead of a narrow neck bottle. So I'll show you guys real quickly what a usual cane pickup setup would look like. You put the canes on a plate, all right, and you make a wheel on the end of a blowpipe, okay, and the wheel is open, and you roll the wheel across the fused canes, and they come up like a sheet, okay? So once you've done that, you close the seam on the sheet of canes, and then you close the end of the vessel. But if you do that, the canes won't drape all the way around. So what we worked out was a way to build a little bigger wheel, and we'll apply the canes to that wheel somewhat differently. So I'm really lucky today. I got Shuhei and Krista to help me out. So what they're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started. So we'll put the canes on this plate, and then Krista's going to, after she opens and closes the door, Krista's going to warm up the collar for me a little bit. The canes will have to be squeezed together so that they're fused into a sheet. Otherwise, they just rattle all around, okay? So they're fairly thick canes, thicker than normal, simply because of the way this vessel is going to go together, okay? While they do that, the usual way to get canes to drape along the longitude is to make what looks like a toilet plunger and bring that cup down on top of a sheet of canes just like that. Well, what you wind up with when you do that is a design more like this, okay? Which may be actually prettier or more elegant, but this wasn't what I'm trying to do, because with that type of sheet and a plunger roll-up, you get progressively smaller loops on the edges, okay? So what we're trying for is to go long with them. Let's go ahead and give that a little squeeze. Okay. And I really don't mind telling you what's going on or if there's mistakes in progress. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm using this to see how far I've squeezed them. Now, Shihei and I have we've only worked together for a day and a half. And we've just worked on picking up the canes, okay? And what I found out was that if I squeeze the canes too much, they don't go on the collar properly. So what I'm actually doing is I'm checking how hard I'm squeezing and see if I get below that distance there, I'm going to have trouble with the collar. And those of you that were in last night saw that. And then we just had to figure out a way to fix it, okay? And I'm hoping not to do that during a demonstration. All right, let's give that a shot. Now, just like the glass you guys have been working with, it kind of changes color due to the heat. I'll show you some samples of the canes and stuff later on, but these are actually kind of blue, okay? They're a baby blue color. All right, let's give that another shot, please, Shihei. Now, I want to check to make sure that I haven't made this too narrow yet. We're doing well. He's going to turn it. We're going to heat it another time or two. The object here is to fuse these together, but don't let them get stuck to the plate. And after we lift them off to the plate, then we'll have to brush them off, okay? What really makes this a hard thing to do is after we pick it up, there's going to be two seams to close, and instead of the end being open, it's going to be closed, okay? So I haven't seen a lot of this done, and probably the reason is it may not be a good idea, okay? But hey, if we pull it off, it'll be fun. When we pull it off. Thank you, Steve. All righty, let's try that. Okay. Yeah, rotate it. I'll squeeze it a little more. kind of like watching paint dry at this point, okay? But we got to get the heat and the thing fused together, and then we'll pick it up. If you guys have got questions while we're doing this, just ask. Yes. Yeah, I pulled the cane myself before I came up here to teach the class. I had a notion we might be doing this, but I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, so the canes I pulled at home. All righty. Okay, one more and that's it. I'm going to give it one more squeeze and then we'll go for picking it up. Yeah, we'll just cool that a little bit maybe, let it chill. So these canes are probably about twice the diameter that you would normally use. And they're probably about 50% longer than what you normally use. Because what we're going to do here in just a minute is they're going to hang from the collar and we're going to flip them up to touch the other side rather than rolling it. Okay? Pardon me?
Does that make the heating more difficult?
It makes the assembly more difficult, and that's why this is a challenge. Like I said, the two seams and the closed end is probably not a great idea, but it's kind of fun. All right, let's give it one last squeeze, turn it, and then we'll go for it. Thank you. If it's not wobbling too much, when I hang it down, we'll brush it, okay? The surface that was on the plate.
Definitely.
If I'm having a little bit of control issue there, we'll just wait till I get it pushed up on the collar and do that.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go for it. I'm going to try and place this collar right down in the middle on that central fat cane in line with the pipe. Rock just a little bit for it to stick, and then off we go. A quick brush, please, while it cools. Okay, great, thank you. Shuhei is going to, now I'm going to let this stabilize a second. Don't be in a big hurry. I'm heating it a little bit. We'll just leave that open for a second. I'm going to hand it to Shuhei. We'll sort of hang it straight down, and then we'll flip the canes up to the other side. Higher, please. Okay, I don't have quite enough heat. I'll come back and get it. And the great thing about having him up there is once you reach Medicare eligibility, you don't want to get any closer to the floor than you have to. Thank you. Thanks. Just the right door closed, please. So we're going to talk a lot more than you probably usually hear, because even though these guys are really great at what they do, we almost never work together. So you got to communicate what it is you want or what you're trying to do with people. So right now, I'm just getting these down to the point that I can try and seal the sides of it, begin that process, and then we'll go from there. Probably in a couple of reheats, we'll do that thing where, where I close it from the outside. But for right now, I'm just trying to get these things. So you got to control the pipe. Gravity's always you're always fighting gravity. If you wait too long on one side, what you're going to wind up with is it falling off center. Now see how gravity makes it sag? You can kind of help it back into shape, but you don't want to stretch it a whole lot. And because they're thick, it's going to take just a minute to get those edge pieces close to one another. But now you can see where the end canes will actually make a complete loop. There won't be a bunch of short pieces. Okay, Shahei, will you take a heat, please? So now what I'm going to try to do, since they're a little closer, he's going to put some heat in it. Not enough so that it collapses on itself or anything, but just enough that I'll be able to use these tweezers to kind of push them together. And what I'm going to have to communicate to him is how I want the glass held, whether I want the seam horizontal, up, or down. Okay, let's see what we got. Horizontal first, please. And flip it 180, let it sit. Edge up. Flip. Go take a reheat, please. Sorry, just want to see what we got there. Okay. One size what? Yeah, okay. All right, let's give that another shot. Flip. Heat, please. Okay, so what I'm noticing here is I've got a little bit of a wide collar, okay? I'm going to play with these canes a little more, and then what I'm going to try and do is create a space to let the canes join. So if you bring it back, please. Just go horizontal, let it settle a minute, bring it up, Yeah. Over. Okay, take a quick reheat, please. And what I'm going to do now, after he just gives it a little bit of heat, I'm going to try and torch the spot where I think there's a problem and get rid of some of the glass. Okay. Now I just realized this would be a lot easier to do if I use some help on it. So after he takes another reheat, I'm going to stand outside the bench so we can actually heat it whenever, no matter which direction the glass is facing. Take a reheat, please. So what we'll do is we'll hold this glass kind of horizontal, and where those canes are still open, those are the spots I'll hit with the torch. When that softens up, I'll use the tweezers to pull that glass back a little bit. Okay. Okay, horizontal, and flip, 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 flip please, flip, and take a quick reheat. Okay. The canes that are up over the collar, I can actually pinch together. The fact that they have marks on them won't matter. Take another reheat, please. I'm going to try to avoid at all costs pinching the canes that are out in the actual field. If I have to, I will, okay? Because that'll distort them. Alrighty. If I let it sag a little bit, then bring it up while I pull, gravity is not as much of a problem. I'll reheat, please. I need to torch that one side a little bit more, I think. Okay, horizontal. Flip. There we go. Flip. Flip. I guess I could say over, and over, and a quick reheat, please. Pineapple. Okay. So I go to that area where I heated the glass up some. I'm going to pull that back a little bit, and I'm actually going to let it fall and pull those guys together a little bit. Thank you. Take a reheat, I'll go outside the bench and try to seal that up. So after we get this line, so there's two lines and it terminates in a closed end, okay? That's really pretty screwed up, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to try and seal it down, and then we're going to marver it to make sure all the canes are tight, okay? All right. Horizontal, please. Up to this edge. Over. Now sometimes we can help gravity along if we need to. Over, please. And I've got a little line I made in there, but that's all right. Okay, take a reheat, please. Just a little bit. So what happened was the cane was soft, and I pushed it just a little too much with a focused part of the tweezers, and that kind of bent it. So the cane's going to have a little curl. So what? All right, let's see if I can finish that up now. Edge up. Over. Okay, thank you. I'll take it. Thank you. Now what you can see forming here is the other issue with trying to do this is at the end where it's closed and the seams were joined together, it's got like dog ears. It looks like a Batman hat, okay? And that's not good. So my first order of business is to marver and get that cane at the collar pulled down some. I'll have to deal with the Batman ears in just a minute. Take a good look, because this is probably the last time you'll see the cane straight, okay? Because during the manipulation process, I'm bound to twist them some. Once I've done this a lot more, I'll be able to keep them straight throughout the process. But for right now, I know they're going to twist. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to move fairly slow in the glory hole, and I'm changing my rotation back and forth. If you heat the glass enough in the glory hole and just keep turning, it will actually twist the glass up. And that's what I'm trying to avoid right now. So sometimes I'll start from the left and roll back. Now I'm going to see if it's sealed up. Not quite. As long as those Batman ears don't fold over like a box top, we should be okay. And one thing I can do, I don't want to press them hard or I'll distort everything, but I just give them a little press and I can bring them back more in line with everything else. Okay, Shuhei. Blow softly. Stop. So if you could see, there was a little bit of inflation right through this area, which means that when he's blowing, it's actually inflating some, okay? I don't want to blow too much because then the bottom will get all thinned out. But the little valley between the Batman ears, that needs to come out. So one thing that will actually help is to kind of torch them a little bit, gently manipulate them back, and then we can probably get a little air and bring the valley between the ears more in line with them. And that's the kind of shape you guys are used to seeing when you blow out your glass. So see how I'm trying to avoid the very middle of that, okay? Now I'll take a real quick heat so that all of it doesn't get too cold. Remember how we talked about residual heat? That torch put the first heating in it, that's residing in the glass now. And when I come back, the heat is still there. So just a little gentle manipulation. Try to bring it back in line, or not sticking out so far, I guess would be the right way to say it. Now we'll put more heat into it. And I'm going to gently hold the end and ask Shihei to blow lightly when I call for it, and we'll see what happens. Blow softly, please. Stop. Okay, so we're going to do this a little bit at a time. If you overdo it, it's really easy to lose it, and we've done that too. I don't want to really start blocking it until I have that end a little more uniformly shaped across the tip, because I'd wind up folding the ears back in. So I'm just going to give it a little gentle press, and you can see that that's also making that valley a little less pronounced. Told you I'd be talking a lot. Now we know that we lose heat as a function of time, so I certainly wouldn't want him to blow right now. I'd want to go ahead and get another little reheat and then introduce some more air. In fact, Shihei, if you would just cap the pipe for me, please. Capping is just like you do with your blow-in cap. It keeps the pressure in the glass and allows me to do some manipulation without changing the amount of air in that column. Thank you. Just take your time, work the glass. Okay, would you take the heat for me, please? Yeah, I think, maybe that one. So now I'm getting to a place where I can probably put the block to it. That'll help tighten things up and also get me a better form to gather. And if there's any gaps in the canes that are there, I'll help smooth the surface out. Okay. I want to be careful not to crush the glass. Like I've told you guys before, don't crush the end of it. You can bring the block on from the end, but you have to be very careful. That will help round it. Another heat, please. Okay. Thank you. Would you blow softly, please? We can blow in the block, get the glass to conform to the shape of the block, and stop. All right, let's get a little more heat in it, and we'll do that again. So the block is holding the shape in place. If you inflate it gently, it's going to acquire the shape of this, okay? And that's what you guys were doing with the blocks before you would go in and gather, right? So that's all we're doing. Now, you're only in day 3, so you haven't heard the whole spiel yet. But if you really want to get this glass together and block, think of an isometric exercise where you bring your right hand and the block up with pressure and push down with your left hand. And if you do that, the glass is pretty much pinched in the middle. It's really not true. We do have a scientist in the class because this pipe is going no lower than the rails. But if you think about it that way, it will help you. The downward pressure keeps you from lifting the block up. The upward block pressure is what's going to make this thing conform to the shape I want. I think I got that right. What's that?
No making up science.
Thank you. Now, just like on the Marver or anywhere else, if I were to only turn in one direction, I would really twist my canes badly. Okay, let's show them what we got. Whoa, it's a big shirt. Okay, so here we're going with the canes draped around the longitudinal axis of the piece. And we're going to take a couple more reheats because heating will thicken the glass. What happens if you try to gather a second gather over your first gather and the walls of it are thin? It collapses, exactly. Okay, these canes are forming the inner wall of my piece. I want to keep them as thick as I possibly can before I go piling 2,000-degree glass on top of it. So the heat is making it contract some. The pressure of the tool is pushing it together some. Another heat, please. And in just a couple moments, we'll be able to gather over it, okay? Oh. All right. Thank you. You really should always say please and thank you to whoever is nice enough to help you. And remember one other thing. It's never the assistant's fault if things go wrong, okay? Another heat, please. Okay.
The shoulder that's forming on the base of it?
I'm sorry?
The shoulder that's forming on the base of the cane?
No, I'm all right there. I'm just trying to get everything contracted. If I'm worried about anything, and this is going to make it into the annealer. All righty. Now, we're not going to be able to use this entire ball of cane, okay? You can kind of see from where you're seated where the end of the pipe is and where the collar was. So when we gather and we cut a jack line and everything on this, we're actually going to be using less of this ball than is right here now. Okay, and again, since I've really only got about a 30% success rate with this piece, I want you to see right now how the canes on the end, let me find them, loop all the way down to the bottom and back up, okay? That was the objective, all right? So we got it here. Whether we'll keep it when we blow it out remains to be seen. So now we're going to let this cool some. Thank you. Going to let it cool so that I can gather over it. If you gather over a larger mass, you're going to bring out more glass. If you have more than you're comfortable with, strip it off. Just get rid of it. There's no point in fighting excess glass. And what we'll do is after I gather, whether I strip it off or not, I'll come to the pipe cooler and say, hey, we'll bring over a larger block. And we'll actually start the blocking process there. That way, if the neck area is a little thin and wants to collapse, we've got support for it, okay? Oh yes, yes, yeah. Those are the clues I told you about, okay? You watch the color of the steel, okay? You watch the clarity or color of the glass. As the heat dissipates, these change, and that's how you know. We don't put a thermometer on the thing, okay? We have to look at something else to decide when it's cool or hot, relatively speaking, okay? And then there's always the sound test. I'm kidding. All right, yeah, if you'll give him a little room to get through there, we'll take a gather over this. I'm going to strip it open. Keep the pipe turning. Always reach way over and pull back gently to cool the pipe. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to also turn. I don't want to twist my canes up if I can help it. And this is cooling the pipe. And now I can comfortably grip it further toward the glass. Okay, off. And I can use the leverage to my advantage now, okay? I'm not particularly strong, but with leverage, what is it? With a lever, I can move the world. Okay, would you reheat that, please? Now this time I'm actually going to use the wet newspaper we've talked about. The glass is cooling some, but there might still be a little bit of that clear glass I've gathered that I could push toward the end as I turn. Thank you. These guys are really taking care of me. All righty. So as I turn, you might be able to see some of the glass pushing off the end. See that? That's what's going to help me keep the bottom from getting too thin, okay? So there we go with that. Thank you. Take a reheat, please. Now remember we talked about differential heating or differential cooling. If you cool one spot or heat one spot, that's how you control what part of the glass moves. I'm going to shape this up a little bit, but then we're going to go to the marver, and just like I showed you this morning before we started, how you can marver the end of the glass to cool it, and the upper reaches of it will expand when you blow. That'll be in just a moment. Now I got all over you about using more of the bench, but if I turn down the whole bench in just one direction, I'm more likely to twist things up. Okay, thank you. I got it. Yeah, Marver. So you can see that the canes have twisted a little bit. I told you that was going to happen. So the idea here is we heat the whole thing and then we pull some of the heat out of the bottom. We may even do that a couple times, and then when I blow, that's when we'll get the expansion in the upper reaches. Just like I told you before, center, turn, and then touch. Touch turning. That cooled it down there. I go immediately back for another heat. I could cool it with the newspaper. I could cool it with a lot of different things. But the steel really sucks the heat out of it. Always center and turn. If you could do that at the same time, that's great. And then touch. Look where we got the majority of the expansion, okay? What's that? I'm just going to do a jack line in a minute. I'm going to blow it up a little more. Then we'll put a jack line in it. I'll get the shape going, and then we'll do a transfer and put the encalmo top. Center, touch while turning. If you ain't turning, don't be touching. Okay, Shuhei, would you take this for me, please? Give it a heat. Cut a jack line this time, or at least start it. Now we get it centered and turning, and then we touch. And you'll notice that the jacks are out there just past the end of the collar, which is actually pulled off the piece a little bit. But that's okay. We were going to get rid of those canes anyway. Remember, the two components of a good jack line are to contract it, constrict it, and then to stretch it out. Okay, a heat, please. And just hang it down a minute. Yeah, let's let that stabilize. Okay, good, good. We'll angle the piece down at about 40 degrees or so while we turn this time. Let it stretch back a little bit. Remember, if we're horizontal, we got a lot of heat and things move a little quickly. We get the glass to contract back on itself. So now all I'm doing, we're letting gravity elongate it a little bit while I cut the jack line. Okay, off. All right, I got it. My shirt's got it. Now, because of the way the canes go on the piece, the natural inclination for this thing is to get kind of wide on two sides. So all I'm going to do is try to round it out a little bit with the newspaper while we turn. And I'm using the pressure, let it center, yep. And this is how we bring it, try to bring it back anyway, to a rounded shape. Okay, the heat, please. Thank you. Remember, you always got to have the newspaper wet. I told you the first day that folded up newspaper wet is a really good insulator. If it's not wet, you're going to get burned, okay? They said we could go over, right? Okay. Thank you. Now we're bringing it back more into the shape I want. And my objective on this is to get those edge loops almost to the bottom, but not under the bottom of the piece. I'll take it. I'm going to take a heat and I'm going to show you where we are now with this. See where I'm going to have to keep turning, okay? But you see those edge loops, the ones on the end that fold back on itself, they'll still be out there on the side of the vessel. I'm going to take a heat here and shape it up. And just because of past bad experiences, not here with these guys, but on my own, sometimes it's nice to put what some people call a cheater or insurance on the bottom of the vessel. And what that will do is when the putty's attached there and then comes off, it lessens the likelihood of taking the bottom out of things. So I'd like to do that now, please. Oh, yeah. So before we flatten it, we put a little dollop of glass on the end, shape it a little bit and bring it down. Then just like you're doing with your tumblers, we heat the bottom and flatten it. Flip. It doesn't take much. It casts right off. And then I go back and I take a heat. Now, in order to keep the shape there, you know how you guys team up with one person with the jacks on the side of the vessel and the other person flattens? I'm not going to put the jacks on because I don't want to straighten the side. But I will hold the body with the newspaper while Shihei flattens the bottom for me. And while all this is going on, Krista's over there making the putty, okay? And then you guys can watch what she's doing with it, but it's just bigger, but basically the same thing you've been doing. So I'm hoping to have enough heat for Shihei to press it, but I'm holding it in place first. We'll ignore those jacks. On, please. So see, I'm gripping the glass and he's coming into the newspaper there. I keep it turning and off. We're going to take another heat and do just a bit more of that, and then we'll have it. And then just like the amazing Ginsu commercial, wait, there's more. I told you we had a cup waiting in the garage over there. After we do the transfer and open the top of this, we're going to attach another piece of glass to it. On, please. And off. Okay. So now I'm going to torch the body up toward the neck a little bit. I know this is loud, but I'm louder. If the neck gets really, really cold while we're waiting and doing all this stuff, it could fracture, okay? So we're just warming that area, and Shihei's going to take a flash for me now. So all we're doing is, you know how we gave a heat bath to the glass to keep it from cracking? Same idea. So he's just taking a short flash, drive some heat in it, And I'm going to take the torch and torch the neck again. The neck and the whole upper shoulder area. If I heat it too much, it's going to start flopping around, okay? So you got to keep your eye on it. Okay, a flash, please. Good to go? All righty. He's taking the flash. He's going to come back and bring it to me. I'll get over here ready with the tweezers, just like you guys do. Krista's going to put just a little bit of heat on it. And know what I told you? You need to get out there so you can see. Because if you can't see, you're only guessing. Press gently. Now, I like to ride the jacks on top of the pipe while I continually turn. That way, if there's a high spot, my slight downward pressure will keep things centered. Now, another thing is, you want to ask your partner, not how they're feeling, but how's that feeling? Good? Okay, if it wasn't, we could blow on it with the Sophietta or with some compressed air. Good to go? All righty. I also like to keep the pipe turning so that the putty doesn't slip across the face while I come over with the water. I put a drop down there. I'm going to put a drop down here. We're going to tap it, and it comes off. Thank you. Okay, a controlled fracture. That's all it is. Oh, wow, thanks. Whoever, thank you. Gas. Did that go out? Did that one go out? Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's see what we got here. So now the end of it is hot. Okay, and we got it pretty well centered on there. So what I'm going to do is use the jacks into the mouth, and would you paddle please above my jacks? Always look where the other person's jacks are, and that will tell you where to place the paddle. Thank you. Off. And I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. Now, we're going to prepare for the other piece to go with this. So I'm going to ask Krista to go ahead and go over and get that warmed up. Hey, if you'll give that a flash and start hitting lip. I took a caliper measurement of that cup. Oh, and Krista, it's a small one, okay? Not the one with the big gather. I took a caliper measurement before we put it away. I'll try to get this to about the same size, okay? And that's it. So I want the openings to match, and then we'll put the two cups together. Sounds simple, huh? This is way easier than trying to do it by yourself. Get help. I'm sorry?
Are you using the jacks to open it up?
I will use the jacks to open it up some. I'll shape it to try and get something that will attach well. And what I'm going to do here, now where I'm getting a little bit of flare there, I could come back with a newspaper but I just want to get a preliminary idea of how far I need to go, okay? Good flash, please. So I need an idea of how far that opening needs to go, all right? And it'll thicken up as it's being heated, and with any luck, it'll be about the same thickness as that cup we're going to put on. Now, the way that cup goes on, she'll be heating the open rim. We'll attach it to this piece. We'll chill and water a joint that's on her end, and then just like we isolated vibration before, we'll isolate the vibration. She'll strike her pipe, and with any luck, it'll break there and not on my punty, okay? Okay. Remember how I told you to follow the angle that the glass presents to you? That'll give you a nice little taper there. Under and on, please. Off, thank you. And let's see. A little more. I gotta open it a little bit more. I don't want it to come wildly pinched in and then go up. I want something that comes in a little smoother, because once we put that on, we're going to blow it up and stretch it out. Oh, yeah. A little tight on. Yeah, that's all right. We'll take an eyeball on it here in a minute. Okay. Thank you. It's all right. Too much coffee this morning. Okay, take a quick flash. And Krista, what I'd like to do is just get an eyeball on it, okay? So Shuhei's flashing right now. And what she's gonna do is she's gonna bring it over. We're just gonna take a look at it, okay? And okay, Shuhei, let's take a look at that and see what we got. If we look like we're pretty close, thank you. Looks like I'm a little wide. Whoa. My bad. Okay, you're fine. I'm going to bring this down. Hey, I'm human. I make mistakes. I pushed a little too hard. That's all right. Yeah. Don't get excited. What can I say? Thank you. And Shuhei's going to help me out. We're going to get that back in line and everything. We'll get that little blip taken care of, and we'll be good. Okay, you want to grab the paddle. Just go on there and swing that back. Yep. Okay. I think we're pretty good. We'll do that once more, but I won't touch it. After a flash, you want to bring it on back, I will just check how we are. So what she's going to do is she's going to heat the rim of that primarily so that it will stick. I think we're good. Okay, now all we need is flashing on this section, warming a little bit. We'll go ahead. We're going to do it now. She's heating primarily the rim of the cup. That's where it's going to stick to this. As soon as we're attached, we'll begin putting some water on the joint that she's got there. And then what we'll do is isolate the vibration by pinching it, and we'll have a pair of tweezers over here for her to hit it with. And with any luck, keep your fingers crossed, we don't have a floor model, it'll break on her pipe, not the putty. Okay, Shohei, we'll bring it on back. And now, a lot of people do this in Calmo thing a little bit differently. I'm going to chill this just a little bit, Krista. I like to have the cup brought at a bit of an angle with her hands pointing down, and then I can lift it up onto this. Okay. Flip. Up. Shohei, if you'll grab the jacks to pinch it. A lot of water here. Hold on. Pinch. Hit. Now what we're going to do is seal the cup to the body. I'm going to use the newspaper to do that, and then in a moment, using a straight sofietta, one of them will blow into the cup. But first order of business is to seal it up. And you can see the decal that's out in the design on that. We missed it a little bit. You can see a little wobble in it, but it's going to be all right. Okay, Shohei, would you take a heat for me, please? Seal it up a little more. So what I did was, that's great English. I made a white blank, a cup, if you will. Applied the decals when it was annealed and cold, and then brought it up in a hot box over here, and then it's like enameling on glass. It makes the image part of it, okay? What I didn't do was I didn't cut the neckline close enough to the decal at the top, so there's all that white out there. But I kind of like it actually, and I'm just going to leave it. I could trim it if I wanted it off of there, but I don't want to really take the chance. So we're going to leave the white out there. And now we're getting a pretty good seal on this. Okay, another heat please. I'm going to round the mouth a little bit on the next one. And then what I'm going to ask one of them to do is take the straight sofietta. And after the second heat after this one, we'll concentrate the heat in the cup and that shoulder area. And by me holding the paper and them blowing, it'll inflate. We got two of them, yeah, okay, cool. Whichever one you want to use, I don't care. I'm going to just round it out a little bit first, and then we'll do it after the next heat. Okay. I'll tell you what, you want to give me a paddle on the lip? Okay, and I'm going to close it down a little bit. Okay, off. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll put enough heat in it that it's going to start inflating back here and up into the cup, okay? So heat down to about here, please. Yeah. I'm not going to hold it. I'll let you just come in and do it. Lots of times when people do the straight Soffietta, the gaffer or person making the glass will grab it with their jacks and bring it in. I trust Chris completely to get in there, make a seal and blow. That's going to allow me to control the inflation and shaping, okay? Blow. I'm holding the end in. See the inflation down in the body. I'm holding the end more. You all right? Okay, off. We'll take another heat and we'll bring it out some more. So I'm going to be holding the glass out toward the cone where she is. I will have the heat back more towards that joint. So we get expansion there and bring that line out. It's just like when you Soffietta a tumbler and you watch the shoulders expand, same thing. Okay, blow please. Off. Okay, and I'm not going for a straight-sided symmetrical vessel. Go ahead and take a flash and a heat please on the top. I've got a little bit of curvature toward the bottom. I kind of like to match that curvature a little bit toward the top, okay? That's just personal preference, okay? So I can use the newspaper to hold the body side in if I'm getting off somewhere. I can use the jacks to open things up if I need a little more opening on it. Paddle on the lip, please. Off. Okay. I'm going to make sure it's rounded a little bit. Okay, if you want to suit up, please, I think we're about done. You want to? Now, what we're going to do, remember how we gave the piece a heat bath a little bit before we knocked it off. If we've got cold spots, that's where a glass would fracture. We want it to fracture on the putty, not somewhere else. So with a brief flash by Shuhei and me using the torch on the lower part, so if the body bottom down in the loop area. If that's cold, it might break. We know the tip is hot. See where the flame is, and I'll warm the putty just a little bit. We're just giving it a heat bath. Okay, a flash, please. And we're going to do that a couple times. Just let it warm up gradually, okay? Would you grab one of the paddles off of there and just hand it to me, please, Barry? Thank you. Great. Make sure it's running true. Give it a little heat bath. Okay, take a flash. I think we're going to do it now. And Dan, if you don't mind just leaving it on for a minute after we do bake-off. Okie doke. Now, so what we're going to do here, remember how I told you to bring the tweezers in along the line of the pipe. So I'm going to go under the rail just because I'm comfortable with that. And I'm going to bring it up and put the chill right there and the chill right here. I'm going to lift it off the rail and hit it, and it comes off. So, thank you very much. You won't believe how nervous I was about all of that. Would you mind taking this? So, only one other thing. These are the colors of the canes. Okay, so that's the cane, not the twisted one that I had in there, but they're the same color, but this is the color. And next Tuesday, I think, is September 1st. And so what made me want to make this vase is September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and blue is the color of that. So the message to guys of a certain age is, think about it. That's all I'm going to say on that. But the image, I think, is really slick. These are the decals before they're applied. And they are the actual images of prostate cancer tissue. And that's what wraps the top of the vessel. Okay? So thanks very much. That's it.